Spaces. This is a very special episode. It's your brother from the Ancient Mother once again, VJ. And I just want to preamble it by saying hip-hop is a culture. And every culture has facets, elements, dynamics that make it what it is. Those who know the culture know that MCing, which has really taken up the foreground and become hip-hop's trip to stardom and commercial appeal, has really taken over the scene. Many have even accused hip-hop of becoming purely rap. I'm here today with a very special guest who is a hip-hop activist, a b-boy, and a hip-hop scholar to talk about the very important conversation of b-boying as an art form and the state that it is in today. So without further ado, the great Cheslyn Meyer on the headspace doing his thing. Bro, it's so good to have you.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure, it really is.
Appreciate it. Now, for the folks out there and the subscribers, I just want everybody to kind of get a sense of who the dude is and how you came into contact with this art form we call b-boying first and foremost. Yeah.
Okay, so, as you guys heard, my name is Cheslyn, also known as Bboy Rhythm. Rhythm as well. And I've been breaking it's like 20 plus years now. And for me, my whole step and journey into the art of breaking and into the hip hop scene and culture as a whole was me seeing a first gen breaking team. So they were known as Freestyle Rock, and they were breaking in one of the schoolyards in Shoreville in the northern areas of Port Elizabeth. It's called David Livingston, that's the high school, and they were breaking on cardboard and with a vinyl on top of the cardboard, so tapete as you would call it. And then for me it was fascinating because me being a youngster and fascinated by the whole seeing guys do flips, and you know back then we were all on mattresses,
right?
We had the stone set up trying to do flips and stuff. Me quite curious and intrigued by what I saw, asked one of the guys, so his name is Melvery, and Melvery was one of the, Melvery is still active today.
Shout out to Melvery, OG.
Yeah, I'll speak more about that soon. So I saw them, and then I went up to them, and I was me wanting to, okay, this guy's spinning on his head, he's spinning on his back, he's jumping around on his hands, and curious. I also want to learn this. I also want to
some superhuman shit.
Yeah, I was hooked immediately. Me being quite active and very sporty and wanting to be part of everything, got caught by this, and from there onwards it just was a whole craze for me. Because now you know when you learn your first move or you get that first trick right, you're eager and excited. I'm going back tomorrow. Back the next day and I'm going back. So that's how it all started, kicked it off and started the whole breaking career.
What year was that, would you say, runabout?
Late 90s.
Late 90s.
That's primary school, so late 90s, and then it really picked up for me early 2000s. So early 2000s, that was the peak of the whole hip hop and R&B genres in the South African African scene. Scene. So that's when you heard more R&B music playing, and there was a lot of hip hop and stuff. That's also when the second generation of dance movies came out. So that was when you first saw the You Got Served. That's when all of that came out. Prior to that, we had breaking and we had break dance and street dance, so you had those movies and stuff. So that created its own kind of hype around it. So back then, that there was the whole, between the 80s and up until the late 90s, you had that craze from breaking and street dance and those movies. And the music videos that came out that time. Now, but you must remember, back then, there was no CDs. That only picked up in the 2000s.
Right,
so everything before that was VHS.
VHS.
And the music came on the cassette. They had to wind with
with the pencil.
So for us, Melvery was our supplier back then when it came to music, and it was on cassette. So he would pull up his BM into the schoolyard, open the doors, put the cassette in, play the music. That's how we would break and we would learn from there. And
Nice.
then we saw the first VHS tapes. That was Radiotron, Battle 99, that was that kind of stuff that we had to learn from visually, seeing what Bboy Rhythm did, learning that way, and then what you see on cassette. So now you have to figure out how the guy is doing that stuff. He already had to figure out his first stuff there.
Yeah.
From a cassette, they were the first gen.
Yes.
So we had to learn from them. So the first gen we're learning from them, us coming in as second and third generation onwards.
Yeah.
So we had to take what we saw there and what we saw on the cassettes and try and, okay, I'm going to try this trick.
Right.
Not knowing technique. If there is technique, there is technique. Everything has its vocabulary, it has its levels in the style of dance. But for you having to figure out the terminology and is the technique right of the movement? Do you have the right momentum and all that? So that was more a challenge for us back then, as to where it picked up from the 2000s onwards. Because now it was more common, and you would find more, you would see more breakdances in music videos. You would see, but then that was actually a dip for breakdancers, because then the freestyle dance picked up. Because that's when you got served out, and there was more people into the top genres as to where it was.
And the crumping and all that.
Yes, that was when crump also, because that was 2000, 2001, 2002, that was when the Rise came out. So that was when the whole crump and clowning also came in. So that's when things started to get rambled up a bit for the breakers. But we still kept going and still kept going.
No doubt, no doubt. I love it, I love it. You've really given the subscribers a beautiful introduction into not only your story, but the story of how breaking filtered into South Africa and your part of South Africa in the culture, and being able to say, okay, this is something inspired by Americans, but I'm seeing my own people do it. You're seeing the OG Malvery coming through. Now, I want to know, do you think South African breakers have added their own flair and dynamic to the art form, that you could say, yeah, we breakers like any other people are breakers, but there is a South African distinct movement that you'd be able to distinctly tell, okay, this is
a B-boy from
South Africa. Has breaking gone to that level where you can kind of tell if this breaker is from Cape Town, this breaker is from... Are you able to distinguish each other through moves? Is there a kind of a distinguishable feel that comes through from a local space, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. I'm speaking breaking as a whole. Right? So back then, it originated in the Bronx. Obviously, everyone knows that. And then from there onwards, it spread out throughout the states. But during the time that the tapes were sent around and it went to the rest of the world, that's when everyone started creating their own style, their own vibe when it comes to breaking, right? So when it hit South Africa, or when it hit Africa as a whole, you must remember the African continent is linked to the European continent. So you have the North African people that's more French and more, so they have that influence from the guys that came over from the top. At the bottom you have the people that would go to the States and so onwards. There's a lot in breaking movements and stuff that was taken from traditional African movements. Like there's a step that we call the Zulu spin.
Oh, okay.
In cultural dances you have where the guys at the bottom and he turns and turns. It's from African culture, it's from South Africa. Right? And then there's, and every country has its identity. Like you would know that even though the style is from America, you would notice that, say for instance you use Korea, they're not the founders, but they took dynamics to the next level. So if you look at the breakers there, you will see them do crazy power moves, and you see them, they've evolved so much when it comes to that. Even now, the upcoming country that really stands out when it comes to youngsters being very dynamic and doing crazy stuff is Russia. They took it to a next level as well, where they have academies set up and they have a large scale of from juniors to seniors that's doing their thing. In the States they have their own movement because they are the the founders,
The originators,
the OG. So their breakers would move a certain way.
Yeah.
They have more traditional breaking where the guys would still see the old school rocking style.
Yeah.
Right, you get it? In South Africa, because we had to learn from everyone. We have you'll know, okay, this is South African breaker by the way we approach breaking. Say for instance in Cape Town, because they were the first ones that got to go over. Their history is more enriched than the other cities.
Yes.
So they had access first before the other cities. Like Brasafani Kaap is from there, Black Noise is from there.
White,
Yes, so Emil Janssen them and Tanswell them, the Heal the Hood and Black Noise movement, those were the first guys to travel abroad and be able to do that stuff. And that was the first people was Prophets of the City and BVK. That was me, them and Ramon them. That's those people.
Yeah.
So they were the ones that sing. They were able to go out, bring in, bring in, right?
Okay.
But then it went to Cape Town first, and then from there, if we could get the tapes or we could get stuff, we would get, or if we travel there and learn, because they're now more experienced than what we were. The tapes would get in, like they were the first ones to be able to bring over the tapes. And had the experience of learning how the culture is that side and being able to showcase South Africa's talent that side.
That side, yes.
Like one of the only South African crews that actually plays. So there's a competition, like you guys know, you've seen movies about it. It's called Battle of the Year. Right?
Yes,
that's one of the biggest breaking events that there was back then. There are others now that built up. But for the world where you can have all the countries there, it's Battle of the Year. And then in the early 2000s actually, there was a crew from Cape Town that made it to the battles, to the battle section. So they went through showcases, then they made it into the battles as South African.
As South African representing South Africa,
making history.
So most of those guys are still around and they're still breaking and stuff, but they were the only ones since then that made it to the battle side of.
So you're saying no one has ever done that anymore?
After that, no one has made it. But
the name of the crew?
I don't think it's a Zanian B-boys, but it was a mixture of breakers, but it was like a South African all-star team. You get it? So they made it to that competition, and that was a highlight of SA breaking, and really something that stood out, and it's Cape Town breakers. And for us back then, the scene wasn't as developed in the Eastern Cape.
As it was.
You see, as it was in Cape Town. But even though they were ahead and stuff, we would still feel like, okay, now we're competition. And as the Eastern Cape, we have our own movement and doing our own thing. So you would see like I said, the maturity in the movement in the Cape Town breakers, in the seniors, as to compare to the Eastern Cape, as to where we don't have much seniors, and we're trying to build the foundation and build a platform for our people that's coming up. As to where they already have that solid
grounding.
So it's almost like you're trying to play catch up the whole time. But you would see breakers from SA moving like breakers from France, or moving like breakers from Japan, or stuff like that. And it's not because of you watching the person, it's just that breaking has developed so much, and everyone's level and their skill is so spread out that you can be doing youth training here now, you're coming up with your own trick. And stuff, but then you'll watch a video and then you'll see that there's someone that's doing something similar to what you're doing. You get it? Because your breaking vocabulary it's broad, but everyone knows the basics. So it depends on how you use the basics and how you develop your skill and how to make the style your own. So there's breakers from all over the world, and then there's only certain breakers that stand out. You get it? So
as with any art form.
So if no one tells you this guy is from South Africa and you put him amongst other breakers and they don't say the country, you won't know it's a South African breaker. You get it? Because the level is that high.
The level is that high. I love that. You mentioned like two pivotal things that I want to ask and highlight. One is Cape Town's historical momentum in being able to have direct links to the States, and how that kind of gave them a lot of stable grounding. And I want to know, as South African breakers at large, hip-hop as a whole is a very competitive art form in any space, whether you are a graph writer, whether you're an MC, whether you're a breaker. So I want to know, does the South African breaking community at large have more unity than competition, or is there still more competition than unity? Because competition is healthy. It allows the level and the standard to rise. When people compete with each other, they get better. However, it needs to be anchored in a sense of understanding we're all trying to achieve the same thing for the same culture. So I want to know, the state of breaking in SA, are breakers unified across South Africa, or is it still the Cape Town breakers don't really fuck with the Eastern Cape breakers who don't really fuck with, you know, how's the state, the political state, and the relational kind of dynamics in South Africa right now? Do you guys really work together well with each other, or is there still factionalities and tensions and cliques here and there?
Okay, so I can actually speak on that based on experience. So you see, the thing at the moment when it comes to SA breaking as a whole is that there are platforms like you have the for competition, you have platforms, and you have people that's trying to put back into the culture, right? So there's different movements. So for Johannesburg, someone that's really pushing is actually from Cape Town. So that's his name is Vokes. We call him Vokes. Everyone knows him.
Yeah, we know Vokes.
So Vokes runs basically at the moment. He's running Global Dance Supreme, and you guys know back then that his company is Wreckage Pro. And they ran Solo Pro, and they ran PlayStation 2 on 2. And so he's I can say his input into the culture is creating platforms and creating opportunities for breakers and stuff. So right. So he's a key role when it comes to breaking in South Africa as a whole.
Shout out to Vokes.
Right? And then you have the guys from Cape Town. There's Heal the Hood. You guys know there's Hood Hop at the moment and all of that. They're trying to create platforms, but those are MPOs and NGOs and all of that as well. So you guys know how it works there. You have to get funding, and you have to you see, to be able, you need a track record and all of that to be able to do stuff in your region and so onwards. When it comes to the Eastern Cape, obviously I'm the one that's trying to fight to keep it alive in the Eastern Cape.
That's why we came to you.
And the reason for that being is that there's a lot of people that want to make a difference, and they want to create platforms, and they want to make a way for guys to be able to compete and to showcase and to teach and to do all of that stuff, but not everyone is by the means of doing so. So it's difficult to get the money in to do it, and you don't want to actually charge people for the skill, but this is skills that you built up how many years? You see, and when you tell people that, they assume that no, you just try to do this to benefit yourself. But it's not that, because I can literally pull up a report for them and show them, guys, this is what I got out of this. This is where everything went to. It went to the venue, it went to the floor, it went to the judges, it went to transport for you guys from East London to PE, accommodation for the guys that's from out of town. So that's why the guys from the other cities get the backing and the funding from, say for instance, Red Bull. Red Bull has their own platform. It's called Red Bull BC1. Right? But Red Bull they put so much into the culture as a whole to set up that whole competition, the stage and setting all of that and accommodating all the dancers, going to the cities to have regionals and all of that. There's people that's for it and there's people that's against it. In anything that we do, you find that. Right? People that feel like, no, they're exploiting the dancers, or you're not getting out of it what you put into it. But it's a competition. And you choose if you want to compete, you want to be a part of it, or if you don't want to affiliate yourself with it, then you don't affiliate yourself. Then there's people that feel like they can create a better platform than that platform. That's an international platform. Nothing wrong with it. You can do that. But don't try and break down
The
what's
people
there.
who
Because there's people that actually want to just compete and just want to be part of that feeling and that hype and that it creates in there, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Then you get, there's the guys that's just there, I can do a move or two, but they don't understand the culture.
Yeah.
They just like the way it looks from the outside in. But then when they have to train and have to
do the
learn
work
more, then nah, I'm cool here. I'm cool with what I know and whatever.
Okay.
So there's different ways of looking at it and approaching it, and there is unity to some sense. Like you asked, there is where people support each other. Like like me personally, at the moment I'm part of Concrete Apostles Cape Town.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like you guys know, Bboy Rhythm, Brandon, BT, Barry, Carlito, Lyle. So we are a whole breaking crew.
Right.
Okay.
Like, but it's Cape Town based, but it's more senior and experienced breakers. So what we do is we have like a Concrete Apostles jam every year, and
nice.
And like one of the members qualified as an international breaking judge. Now recently he's gonna judge one of the events abroad, and he plays normally at the qualifying ciphers in Cape Town. Barry is his name.
Okay.
Bboy Bay.
Okay.
If you look him up, you'll see.
Okay.
And then there's guys that's like, Curse is a 3-time PC1
PC1 champion. Yeah, I know.
champion. So you guys know.
You guys are a bunch of OGs.
These are
so, but it's all people that's trying to give back, and it's not about you have this many titles and you have this. It's more about how can we make it continue and sustain the culture, and create, like I said, we create platforms. And with me coming from the Eastern Cape, so the crew is quite spread out. There's people in Durban, that's Byron, Bboy Buzzer. He's in Durban, he's from Flow Assassins, but he's part of Concrete Apostles.
Okay.
And then the other guys are in Cape Town. And then I'm the only one from the Eastern Cape, from Port Elizabeth.
Okay.
So it's quite spread out through regions.
Love it, like a super crew. South African super crew. Yeah, so you've really outlined the state of B-Boy. I have one question to ask. Do you think as an art form, particularly in South Africa, or maybe if you want to stretch it, Africa at large, in the face of rapping having taken so much precedence in the art form, do you think breaking is an endangered art form?
So, if you state it like that, say, ask me if it's like an endangered art form. I wouldn't say that it's an endangered art form. It's just that because the style or the movement when you step into breaking as just breaking.
Yeah.
It's such a difficult art form. It consumes a lot of training and time, and you having to actually love it. And that's what sets the actual breakers apart from the guys that's just coming into it. Oh, I like it, I'll try a few stuff, but they're not willing to, or maybe they have responsibilities, and you get it. Like all of us have our own responsibilities and issues that we face, but if you're trying to sustain it for a long time, then you would obviously have to find a way to make your breaking fit into your lifestyle, right? Whether it be you working full time and stepping into breaking when you can, or it being breaking as your
main source of income.
Or it's not easy though. It's not.
So, because I wanted to get there. Can you actually make a living out of?
Look, it's not easy. You have to be very open to suggestion and be versatile when it comes to adapting to your situation that you're in.
Okay.
Like in the Eastern Cape, it's not easy because it's either you teach and then you get booked for breaking stuff, but you have to adapt to other genres that's forming part of a performance.
Right.
You get it? So if you, like for me, it's easier because I can do so many other dance genres. So I'd be booked as a breaker being able to do tricks and all that, but I can adapt to choreography, I can learn choreography, and I teach dance and I teach breaking, so you have to find your way of making it work. And then obviously if your breaking is not going to be the main source of income, it should be something that you're doing, or you're doing it for the love of breaking.
Yeah.
But like I said, it consumes so much time and it takes so much effort. If you want to excel in it, you're going to have to put in the hours.
Yeah.
Basically. And then the style as a whole in South Africa, it has died down in some cities, but like in the core cities you'll still find breakers. Like in the Eastern Cape, I'd say it's between East London and PE.
And PE, yes.
Yeah.
In East London you'll find the numbers, but in PE you'll find the experience.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
So, and then in Cape Town you'll find
everything.
You'll
there.
find numbers, but their dance culture is more developed than our dance culture. That's the thing. We have more in studio as to what the street.
That's street,
as
yeah.
in the beginning it was more street than
in studio.
Okay.
You get it? But because the guys from the street try and sustain their dancing, they go in studio. You get it?
Okay.
So you're forced into teaching, you don't get to, not, I wouldn't say forced, but because you're trying to make an income from it. And the gigs aren't that regular, so you go into teaching.
Okay.
You see. And as for saying in...
Endangered?
No, as for saying endangered, when it comes to the whole Africa.
Yes.
North Africa, them, Nigeria, them, and Congo, them, and those guys, and West Africa, they've grown so much in numbers and experience, and there's been so much growth in a small space of time. But that's because they have internationals that's coming in. So like Lilo, Bboy Rhythm, you guys know him from France. Actually from Algeria, they went over to France. They're from Pokemon Crew.
Okay.
So there's a lot of internationals that have programs that they run, and they sponsored and funded by bigger brands and corporate sponsors. So they get to go into the places and go do workshops. And they go into villages. You'll see it on their pages. They go into villages and give workshops, and a lot of the guys are Red Bull All Stars. You guys know the main All Stars.
Yeah.
So they get to see the whole world and put in. But when they get there, they realize that there is already a foundation. And they're just adding to it, or they're starting something, and then when they get back a few years later to that, then it's developed and grown so much.
Okay. So
So it's not endangered on the African continent and not in South Africa. It's just that it has a time where it dips, and it depends on the people that's running the stuff. If you're gonna fight to bring it back up, or create more interest around the actual genre.
Yeah, you see, we had an episode. It got me thinking. We had an episode about media, the lack of media coverage, for hip hop. So I thought maybe I would ask that question. Don't you think it's also the problem with b-boys that people don't even see it a lot on TV?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Okay, so at first, when it comes to TV, you guys remember Yo TV?
Wild Room.
Wild Room. You guys saw.
That's how we saw
Short. You saw DJ Switch and those guys. So they had constant access.
Yes.
So breaking was showcased more when it comes to that. And you would see a b-boy here and there in a music video or in an ad. So media plays a very big role, and at the moment with the way social media works when it comes to us, if you don't put yourself out there, you don't get noticed. Right? And I know and I understand everyone doesn't have access, or everyone's level is not the same. And I think most of the time it's more the having access to being able to post a video, or being able to getting a gig for a big ad, or getting a gig for something like that. So an easy exposure and making sure that you get seen more. So what we used to do is we would set up a floor or put a vinyl down out on the street. Then we would train there, and that would attract kids to us. Or we would be outside Greenacres, there at the bridge, back when the cinema was there. We would be outside as you go down the escalator, you would see the breakers there. We recently started breaking at the beach again.
I saw that.
Up, so then myself and Madian, you know her, she's the current Eastern Cape Beagle champion.
Okay.
And she placed second place last year at PC1. She also had to go to France, was it last year? Yes, for it was one of the legs of the World Breaking Federation stuff. So as you guys know, breaking is part of the Olympics now.
Yeah, it's part of the Olympics. Yeah.
And so they have a big world qualify every year, right? So the big one is in 2024. But now every year there's a big Olympic battle for every sport code.
For you to qualify to get to the...
No.
Oh, okay.
That's just building up to the big one.
Oh, okay.
So you still get your medals and you still get all of that. But that's like the next leg. Okay. This is the next breakers and that. So there's ample stuff that's happening.
That's beautiful. I think I've learned so much from this conversation. Thank you so much, bro. Because I think a lot of hip hop heads, well, I'll speak for myself and everybody else will decide. We get so wrapped up in a whole lot of these art forms that are more immediately in our faces that we don't see the breaking so much. And to be in close contact and see how the culture is still alive in so many ways, to see how it's evolved and still evolving, to see how there's still people doing it in so many different, constantly novel ways, makes me interested to actively go back and learn and not even learning on an actual practical level, but learning more about where it's growing and who's currently active. So I want to thank you for conscientizing me, and I think a lot of our subscribers, and giving you the floor to kind of give your message to our subscribers out there, in your message, Cheslyn's message to the b-boying breaking community in South Africa. Anybody who's interested, what do you think would be your last message to them?
I'd say, speaking from personal experience, what's helped me grow and what's kept me in the culture of breaking and hip hop as a whole, I'd say is respect to every other element when it comes to the culture of hip hop. To me, it's not just I'm a breaker, I just stand for breaking. It's got nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
I personally believe that all the elements of hip hop form a very crucial part of who you are as a person in the culture of hip hop.
Yeah.
So, because a lot of us have multiple skills, you a breaker, but you would be a dope DJ because of your musicality and understanding music. You would have there's some guys that draw more to art, so you'll find them painting, drawing, to graffiti.
Yes.
Some of the guys have the talent or ability to rap, so you'll find them at MC battles. You'll find that some of the guys produce music, they create their own music. So it's all placed on, that's where the last element, where knowledge of self comes in.
Yeah.
You find yourself in the culture and you understand your role as someone from hip hop. I wouldn't say from hip hop, as someone representing the culture.
Yes.
So for me, coming from a breaker's perspective, is stay true to who you are, one, love what you do, and respect all the other elements. A lot of people have lost their respect for the other elements because they don't understand the culture.
Yeah.
And coming from someone that knows that, like they say, each one teach one, you can learn from every other aspect, whether it be from rapping or from graffiti or from being the DJ and or from the dance, because it's a whole package as a whole. It's not just
one is more important than the other.
Yes. So to me, it's unity of the culture and not just you as one person.
No doubt. Man, that's a profound way to end
I'll
it.
explain it. So if you guys want to know more about breaking as a whole, or want to learn more about the culture, and you're trying to find someone to teach you, I'd say, or not teach you, or know more about who I am as a breaker and my role in the scene, you will find me on Facebook, Cheslyn Meyer, or you can look up Bboy Rhythm, S-A, that's Rhythm, R-H-Y, T-H-M, _, S-A, that's for Facebook, right? Instagram will just be Bboy Rhythm, the number one word, you'll find it there. You can also follow my dance project. It's called Battle Beasts. You'll find it on Facebook and you'll find it on Instagram. On Instagram, it's Battle Beast Official. Any other information that you need, you can just drop me an inbox. All video links and uploads are on the pages.
No doubt. Thank you so much, my brother. Thank you for watching. As per usual, keep on keeping on, keep on spreading the gospel, the message of the South African hip-hop movement. My brother Bboy Rhythm just set him straight, he just educated us. And keep subscribing. And if you're new to the platform, tell the people out there that we're here conversating, constantly expanding this South African hip-hop movement. The most important thing I've learned today, summed up in your words, is be true to who you are and learn from the other elements of the culture. It's your brother VJ, hang with Bboy Rhythm. We out.